There we go. And Tessa, if something comes up, feel free to interrupt me. I'm totally game for that.
Sure, will do.
So automation in the social media world, I think, is actually thought of as it's kind of a bad thing, you know. Twitter actually has rules against automation. Um, and sorry, I was just checking to make sure everybody could see my screen. And so you kind of have to be careful. So we like to talk about automation in the sense of moving data or doing those tedious works, nothing that's actually creating any content or responding to content or doing those things that you as a human being should be doing, but more of the behind the scenes stuff, like how can we connect data that we're actually creating to make our lives a little bit easier without doing the over the top spammy automation. So I do realize that it's a fine line between what we like to share and what we like to help people with versus ways that you can kind of get in trouble with it. So I just like to point that out at the very beginning. Twitter especially has some really strict rules on automation, and I'll point you to some resources that will help with that. But and I don't want this to be about Zapier at all, that's never my intention, but I do like to kind of put things in context. So Zapier is actually a tool to help kind of you connect the dots, and so we have almost 400 different apps that you can use with Zapier. And so there's so many social things that you can do, so I just kind of like pointing out all the little different options we have here to kind of help put things in context. And then the way that to help you kind of think about how you can automate some of these things behind the scenes is just thinking about what that means. So when one specific thing happens, I want something else to happen. So that's the way we kind of think about, if you find yourself doing tedious tasks every day, over and over and over again, if you could start thinking about, all right, this one thing, if I could make this one connection to this one other thing, I'll have to stop, and I could stop doing this one tedious task. That's the way to kind of think about automating. So when you're going through your day and if you find yourself doing the same thing over and over again, or something is particularly monotonous, or you've just got data that you need to move somewhere else, just bear that in mind when you're thinking about ways that you can kind of shave some time off of your day and make things a little bit easier. We broke this down into, I think, 4 sections. One of my teammates wrote this really amazing post, which I'll share at the end, and it's actually on the bottom of the page that you're on if you want to scroll down and click on it. It's 101 Smart Ways to Use Social Media Automation. And so we broke it down into ways that could kind of put things into buckets and help people kind of figure out their flow. So promoting is the first one that we came up with. And promoting your work is interesting. Again, we're not talking about automating the creation of it. We're talking about automating things once you have done that stuff that you already love, the creating of the content, the creating of the event, any of that sort of stuff that you need to do. But once that's done, how can you promote that stuff? What are some ideas to help you kind of start connecting those dots and thinking about ways that you can promote this without having to do a whole lot of legwork? So LinkedIn is a great place to start. So you can do things like share, connect LinkedIn to Facebook and share status updates that way. That's kind of a tongue twister. You can connect LinkedIn to your buffer queue to push that sort of promotion from LinkedIn out to your other tools. RSS is a great way to help promote things. So if you're writing a blog, or if you've got any other sort of content that you're creating that is creating its own RSS feed, you can use that RSS feed to promote things in so many ways. So you're sharing your blog posts to Facebook, growing your audience by sharing that stuff on LinkedIn, automatically tweeting new blog posts. That's a really good one. RSS to your buffer queue. So whenever you're creating this content, make sure that you've got a way on the backside to grab that data and easily send it out to these other things to kind of help you promote it. So you don't have to spend the time doing all the promotion. You can just, again, focus on creating the actual content. Instagram, is everyone's favorite thing these days. And I did a webinar yesterday with one of my best friends in the world, Courtney, who works at Buffer, and we did a lot of stuff with Instagram. And it was really cool to kind of see all the ways that you can automate Instagram we hadn't really thought of as we were talking through ways to kind of send Instagram information to Buffer, which is one of the fun automations that we came up with. But sharing Instagram to Twitter, to Facebook, sending it to your Buffer queue, actually sending Instagram photos to your WordPress blog, that's another cool automation you can do. So again, you're creating that content on Instagram, you just want that to easily, behind the scenes, take care of itself, promoting it out to all these other different properties that you have. Awesome use cases of promotion. So again, content that's being created, whether it's YouTube videos, Vimeo videos, meetups, I consider that to be content that you're creating, a physical meetup, webinars, even things if you're doing e-commerce, so Shopify carts, Magento, anything like that, when you have a new product, automatically tweeting that out. MailChimp, sending MailChimp newsletters to LinkedIn, Facebook events, meetups, all these things that you can do if you just kind of think about, okay, I've got this event, this piece of content, whatever. What are all the different ways that I can, share that? So just be conscientious of that when you're creating the stuff and thinking about, on the front end, how do I want to promote it? Where do I want it to go? And once you have that in mind, you can easily set this stuff up and you never have to worry about it again. And I think we already covered WordPress a little bit, but WordPress, I know many of you are probably using to automate, or not automate, words on the brain today, to create your content that's pushing or publishing, responsible for publishing on your websites. So think about the ways that you can kind of connect that stuff together. Where would you want your WordPress content to go? To Facebook, to LinkedIn, you want to tweet those WordPress posts. You want to send that WordPress stuff to Buffer so you can queue it up to be sent out anytime. All kind of falls into the promotion category, again, of that content that you're spending a lot of time creating. So once you have promoted that content, then like the trickiest part of this, or probably the most time-intensive part of this, is engaging with your customers, your users, your community, whatever that might be. And a lot of this you can actually automate too if you think about it. So, you actually have to be the one that engages with a lot of people, but with using something like LinkedIn, you can do all kinds of engagement and you can automate the start of that engagement, right? So if you've got a business card that you want to use to request a connection to LinkedIn. I see a lot of people, like, if you get an incoming email and you want to connect with someone on LinkedIn, you can automate that. I just now noticed that all of these engagement suggestions are LinkedIn based, but I talk to so many people who love connecting with people on LinkedIn. And this is such an easy way to kind of, again, start that engagement process. And you can kind of flip it in reverse too. You could automate emails to go out, any type of thing that you would want to maybe kick off a conversation with somebody. Think about how you can automate that. I use that all the time. We use some ways to automate our first step of engagement so we can actually spend more time on the meat of the engagement and less time on like the actual outreach part of it. I really love these cool ideas about getting to know your followers and finding customers. There's a couple of really cool ideas in here. New followers into a Google spreadsheet, that's a great way to kind of keep track of things, especially if you have customers or clients, I guess I should say, and you want to kind of keep up with show them their new followers that you're getting for them as you kind of work along through the account. The Slack one's really cool too. So anytime you get a new follower, you can push it into a Slack channel. Twitter mentions into a Google spreadsheet, I will probably talk about 10 times from here on out because it's so powerful. Anything from finding happy customers like I have listed here to doing reporting, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Such an easy way to collect this data, to find these happy customers, to start that engagement. The Trello one is actually one that we use ourselves at Zapier. Anytime we get a particular tweet, we have that create a Trello card, and that's how we start our engagement with a lot of our users. So we know if someone's super happy and they want to talk to us, we have that use Trello almost like an editorial calendar, and we have a whole list of people to reach out to do case studies and engage with them, and that we probably wouldn't have come across if we were doing that manually or just trying to keep up with everything that was going on. I also really love these event ideas since, I'm community through and through, and I love doing events and going to them and running them and hosting them. But there's so much work that goes into events, so if you can automate as much of that as possible, there's just so many cool ideas you can do, whether it's an in-person event like you're using Eventbrite or Meetup, or something virtual like GoToWebinar or whatever. You can engage with people by tweeting them, emailing them, whatever, and that's one thing less that you have to do yourself and something else that you can just kind of let the computers do for you, so to speak. So once you have promoted...
Hey, Allison?
Yeah.
I'm going to jump in because you told me I could.
Yeah, go for it.
Shelley brought up a question about posting to Facebook natively versus doing it through another channel, and how it may be better to post to Facebook organically. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I kind of waver back and forth on that because Facebook is so limited in its reach in the first place. I personally am not the biggest Facebook fan in the world. So my opinion's probably a little skewed on that. I would say just go ahead and automate it, because is it really mattering one way or another? I know that's kind of a curmudgeon-y way to think about it, but if you have the time, it probably is better to post that natively. If you find yourself really desperate to save the time, or if you want to maybe test it and seeing if whether automating it or posting it natively actually truly does make a difference one way or another, I really think that might matter from account to account, because Facebook is just so weird about how they're letting users actually engage with pages. So yeah, I do understand that that's always going to be a problem, but again, if you either want to test it or just think about, is it really worth it? Would I rather spend that time doing something else? So we'll get back on track with, we're kind of like halfway through the process. So we've created our content, we promoted it, we were engaging with our community. Now comes what I think is probably, where the tedium begins, really, is monitoring. And I actually did a webinar on this because we put together a whole bunch of resources on brand monitoring, which is such a difficult thing because there's just stuff everywhere. And I think this is really where automation can start to help you, especially if you're freelancing and you have 2 or 3 clients. I cannot imagine doing brand monitoring. It's hard enough for me to do it for Zapier. I can't imagine doing it for 2, 3, 4 different clients. So if you can take a lot of that tedium out of your day and let the information come to you and not you have to go out to seek it, I think you're going to be able to do so much better of a job at what you're doing, and you're going to be able to do that part of your job that you love the most. So let this stuff come to you. So Twitter search is clearly everyone's favorite. There's so many different ways you can do it. So just basically think of, how would I want searches on Twitter to come to me? And that's different for everyone, right? It might be a chat room, it might be an email, it might be putting that into a spreadsheet, it might be doing it to RSS. Any way that you can think about it, whatever's going to work best for you, I highly, highly, highly recommend automating that as much as possible and let it come to you. Don't go out and try and find it. You can even take that a step further. This is something that I've had fun playing around with recently. We actually have, and I'm sure Twitter has it natively too, because we're basically just grabbing it from them, but you can do geographic Twitter search, which is so cool. It's a little clunky because you have to have a longitude and a latitude, but that's pretty easy to find. And I was experimenting. I live in Nashville, and I was experimenting with finding different mentions of the Nashville tech scene on Twitter and letting it come to me. I was actually putting it into a spreadsheet. But you can get an email about that. You can get a text message about that into Slack, into HipChat, whatever. So if you've got a client who is specifically local in a sense, maybe they have a shop, a physical store, a presence in a certain community, like a physical community, then man, you should go to town on geographic Twitter search, because there's some cool stuff that you can get, and again, just let it all come to you. I imagine that many of you are familiar with Mention. Mention is an awesome way to kind of take the concept of Google Alerts and kick it up 100 times. We, again, use it ourselves. We actually mainly use it for Facebook search. So if anyone mentions Zapier on Facebook, that comes to me. But I also use it as a way to grab any mention of Zapier around the web. And I actually do our mention feed to RSS. So once a day, I go and I look at my RSS feed and I see if there's any mentions of Zapier. I go out and I comment on those blogs. I send them t-shirts, whatever, but I don't have to do any of that work. It just comes, it creates an RSS feed, and then when I have the time where I can slot it into my day, I go and I deal with it. Man, Instagram. I was loving Instagram. So, again, we want to be able to monitor where people are posting photos if that's part of our client's business. So you can search for Instagram tags and users and all those types of things and let that data come to you. Tag is probably going to be the most relevant thing here. So if someone tags an Instagram photo with a particular hashtag, you can just let that come to you. So whether, again, that's email, Slack message, text message, whatever that might be, that's another great thing you can automate. And I don't know how applicable this is to most folks, but Reddit is, I think, a really sort of lost in the shuffle when we talk about monitoring the web. But I actually just set up very recently this second automation you see here. So when someone mentions Zapier on Reddit, I actually get an email about that, because Reddit is, I'm old and I don't understand Reddit, but it's for us, it's a place where our community is really engaging, because we've got, as a young tech company, that's kind of like our thing, and that's a place where our core audience is hanging out. So because I don't understand Reddit very well, or I just don't have time. If I spent all my time in Reddit, I would never be able to do anything else, right? So I just let it come to us. So anytime Zapier is mentioned on Reddit, it just shoots me an email, and then I can go right into there and either reply to it or at least find the user so I can reach out to them, whatever I need to do. But don't forget about Reddit if it kind of fits into a place that you might need to monitor for your clients. So we've created the content, we've promoted it, we've monitored it, we've engaged with it. Now I think comes the absolute most tedious part of the process, mainly because it usually falls at the end of the month. You got so many other things going on, but we have to report data to our clients. No matter how you do it, you just have to do it. But I think the key thing here is to think about what's the most meaningful thing for what you're doing. What's going to prove your worth the most? It's going to be different for everybody. But again, just like monitoring, if you let a lot of this data come to you, then it's one less thing at the end of the month that you have to go out and chase, that one less thing you have to aggregate, whatever. You can get as much of that coming to you as you can, automated to you as you can. And then, again, you'll still have to do some work, but you won't have to do as much work. So I think Twitter mentions to a Google spreadsheet is like the easiest thing that you could do to show engagement to your client. And then, you can just tally up those spreadsheets at the end of the month, and you've got a really quick and dirty report. Same thing goes for mentions. So if you are wanting to grab all those mentions that you have, you can aggregate that. Instagram hashtags, whatever it is, the campaign that you're working on, whatever's most important to your client, most of the time you can get a lot of that stuff coming to you. One really cool thing that I've seen people do is, and someone else might be able to speak better to this than I could. It even kind of caught Courtney by surprise when we were talking through buffer stuff earlier this week. But logging your buffer history into a Google Calendar, it's just such a cool idea, It's like if you need to show someone truly how much work you've been putting in, what you've been doing, there's no easier way to show them than on a calendar. Same thing goes for tweets, although I think if we did buffer, it'd take it a little bit wider than that. But like I said, Twitter mentions, any other sort of mention to a spreadsheet is such an easy way to have all that data come to you, and at the end of the month you can just do a couple of quick tallies to kind of calculate all that together. Archiving is kind of one of these rogue ones that we just tossed into this resource because, sometimes you might actually need to keep up with the stuff that you're doing. It's not something that I do particularly, but I think there's some cool ideas here if you are someone who needs to sort of aggregate and archive anything that you're working on. So you can literally use Dropbox to grab photos and posts, anything you're doing in Pinterest. Pinned images to Trello cards, that's really, really cool. So again, if you need to keep an archive of the work that you're doing, that's another thing that you could easily automate to not have to worry about it. And I would highly recommend doing that. Just think about what exactly it is that you need to keep, whether it's for a specific campaign or for a specific client, and let the machines do that work for you. And like I said, we have this resource that one of my teammates put together. It's insanely thorough. So it's linked at the bottom of this page that you're on. Like I said, if you want to read through it, there's way more ideas than I went through here. And with that, that's really it. So this is my contact information. I will talk about this stuff anytime. In fact, we'll do a little Q&A here. But if you want to reach out to me at all, please do. Engaging with people and talking with people is like my favorite thing, and as much as is for you too, because that's why we do this job in the first place. So with that, I will stop this, so you guys will have to look at me again and see if there's any questions that we can tackle, or maybe a little conversation we should have.
All right, so I'm keeping an eye on that chat roll, and oh, there you go. And if anyone has any questions they want to come in, post up there. Now's the time to ask. Speak up. Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy.
I know Shelly had one question. You were talking specifically about Zapier automations, obviously, and I know a couple of our peeps use IFTTT. So what are some of the differences that you know between using the two?
Socially speaking, we allow you to connect as many different accounts as you need to, so social accounts. I believe that IFTTT only lets you connect like one Twitter account and one Facebook account. I believe that's true. While we're similar in theory, our focus is much more on the business side of things, and their focus is even getting more and more on the consumer side of things. So turning on and off light bulbs and doing home automations, that's where their focus is more, and ours is more on anything you need in your business life. So we have a lot of accounting automations, project management automation, just that sort of like day-to-day business stuff.
So you could have, say you have 4 clients, you could log in 4 different accounts and do the same automations for all of those.
Yep, yeah, which is the main reason why I was so excited to share this information or this knowledge, is because I know how difficult it is to keep up with. I can't, like, more than one client, that's a lot of work, and so whatever we can do to kind of help people think about ways that they can cut out a lot of that tedious stuff, that's what had me most excited to share stuff with folks.
Yeah, so I know Carrie's asked in the group if anyone has any specific rules they use with their clients for automation. What are maybe your top 2 or 3 favorite automations to use?
For me personally?
Yeah.
Well, every week I run my webinars, and this might be helpful for folks. And I'm actually in the middle of writing a blog post about how we do webinars, because we've had a lot of people ask about that. I collect as much data as we can. So we have a Wufoo form that we collect information on that we automatically send to a spreadsheet. We have Wufoo forms that we'll also send confirmation emails. So if someone signs up for something, they automatically get a confirmation email, so we don't have to worry about that. The Reddit one that I mentioned is really fun. So I've got that set up if anyone mentions us on Reddit. And then the other one that I talked about earlier, I have mentioned the app, which is how we monitor Zapier as a brand. I have that create an RSS feed for me, the most important thing is that and I imagine this is the same for everyone else, there's so much noise in our day. Having TweetDeck open all the time, email constantly coming in, however you're supposed to manage and monitor your community, it's a lot. And so that was the one thing that I had to take back in my life, was I couldn't let these mentions come to me in real time, because I needed structure. So I set that up to come to me as an RSS feed, so now I have control over that. I have control over when I have 10 or 20 minutes in my day to go look through these mentions and engage with those people. So that's probably, for me, is a lifesaver, because there's just, again, like I said, there's so much going on, and I think taking back control of that was really important to me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm looking in, and I don't see any more questions coming in. I don't know if people are shy, or you were just that awesome that you answered every question that they ever needed. So I'm game to wrap it up, unless anyone wants to speak up.
I will say that feel free to email me anytime and ask anything you want. Not even Zapier related. If you just want to say hello, or if you want to brainstorm ways that you can make your life a little bit easier, I'm happy to share my own war stories. I've been doing this for like 15 years now, so I'm happy to swap stories or help in any way that I can. That's what I love to do, and it makes my day. So my inbox is always open.
Well, that sounds great. And on that note, I will, once we get this recording together, I will share this out to everyone. So anyone who was on, if you had any technical difficulties, or if you just want to revisit, this will be available for you, and it will be recorded forever and for always.
Yes.
So you can always come back. And I'll post Allison's information as well, so that you can flood her inbox with questions, comments, and love.
Email, whatever. If you actually, everything will live on this page that you're on right now. So you can refresh the page probably in the next half hour, and then from here on out, this will be here. The resources will be here. So anytime you want, if you want to send anyone here, if you want to come back and read through some resources, feel free.
All right, great. And Dinah said that she's probably going to try some of these out, and will be emailing you in the future.
Good. Yeah. We also love to hear how other creative ways that people come up with automating data, because there's no way that our way is the best. So it's always fun to hear how other people do it too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for hosting this today. Appreciate you taking the time to hop on with all of us.
This was so much fun, and again, I'm happy to talk to anyone anytime. So just let me know, and we'll have this up for you to come back and use anytime.
Sounds good.
All right.
Well, have a great day, everyone.
Yep. Bye, everyone.